Welcome to the Bluegrass Blues podcast, episode 18, first episode in 2026. I'm Amy.
And I'm Jesse. You're right, this is the first episode of 2026, so that means we just had a couple of holidays. So did you do anything interesting during Christmas or New Year's?
Well, I celebrate Hanukkah. I did have people, we ate potato latkes and lit the menorah as candles, and that was a lot of fun. And then my family went to Odenton, Maryland, which is where my stepsister's family is. And we just hung out with them, and they live really close to Baltimore. And we went to Baltimore. There's a farmer's market actually in Baltimore that goes year round. It was really cold when we went.
But I think I've been to that farmer's market.
It's really good.
My niece's mother sells pies there, like these little tiny pies.
Oh, yeah. And my niece sells chai there.
Oh,
and
okay.
they had a really long line because their chai is super good.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went out for seafood one night. And
Did you go to the harbor? Or did you
we didn't go to the harbor.
Okay.
Yeah. We went to a woman-owned seafood, I think it was called Angie's Place. And we met the owner, and they have a great business, and it was delicious.
Oh, good. Yeah, I had family over after Christmas. My niece came in from New Jersey, but leading up to Christmas, we did the visit to Terry's family, my wife's family, out in the country, neighboring county, out in the woods. That was fun because about maybe 25 to 30 people showed up for this Christmas Eve dinner. And Christmas Day was, just very mellow. Went over to visit the grandchildren and, watch them have fun. And that weekend, we went to a Bengals game in Cincinnati because my niece's son is a big Bengals fan, even though he lives in New Jersey. Plus, my son's wife is a huge Bengals fan. So we parked in Covington and walked over the bridge. It looks like the Brooklyn Bridge. And the nephew didn't know that we were going to the game. He's a big fan. He got dressed up because we said, we're going to go to the stadium to take some pictures, but we don't think there's a game today. But when we get there, there's all these people in Bengals outfits heading for the stadium. And so, as we walk toward the stadium, someone says, anyone need tickets? And the kid asks, can we get tickets? And I said, nah, don't worry about it. We'll just go inside and see if we can take some pictures. Then we got inside, and he realized that this was real, and we had really nice seats. So it was just great. The weather was really good, not too cold, although I bought a blanket at the stadium. The Bengals won convincingly, and everybody was happy. So that was a well-spent Christmas for everyone. And
I found out, too, that your family and my family both had vegan Hoppin' John and collard greens and cornbread.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to get to the holidays on a vegan diet because when you go to other people's houses, it's, turkey and ham and all the stuff that's really tastes good but really is bad for me now.
Right.
So I think I had maybe something that was not dairy or meat when I was at the family gathering in the country, but since then I've just been on this just vegan, well, not kick, it's what the doctor says I have to do.
For the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You look good, by the way.
Yeah, okay.
You do.
That's what they do.
It is a sacrifice, I know.
Yeah, and it's like when everyone was here, we went to, the Post to get pizzas for the family, but I couldn't have the pizza.
No.
So I got a salad and...
That's not as fun as pizza.
No.
I think pizza is probably my favorite food ever.
And there's still pizza in the refrigerator that I can't touch. So that's where we are. But, the holidays were good. I'm glad we got through it. We're now in 2026, which 2025 was so bad that You just hope things get better this year. But there must be something that people can do just to get ready for this year. And I think you had a list of things that we wanted to talk about.
Obviously, a lot of us were really setting some intentions about what we're going to do in 2026, of course, to ensure free and fair elections for the midterms and to fight this autocracy. And we're going to talk about some of the things that have already happened in this very short month. It's January 6th right now, which is a dreaded day in our history.
This is a historic day. It's not a dread. It's really one of the key dates in American history. It really does rank up there with September 11th.
Yeah.
Because there has been...
Except the insurrection here was caused by our own president.
Yeah, right. I mean, that obviously that was the cause. And the fact that he did that, tried to overthrow the government, which is what Jack Smith was saying in his testimony. Jack Smith, the former prosecutor, who was investigating Trump for, it's easy to say what he's investigating Trump for because Trump has done every crime that you can think of. But so Jack Smith has testified that it wasn't like something that he was innocent, that the current president was innocent of. He was an instigator of the violence, which MAGA and Republicans don't want to hear and don't want to deal with. So,
although Mike Pence was targeted, the legislators were targeted. I mean, what a shit show.
Well, but the legislators who were targeted, the Republicans still voted to didn't vote to impeach him.
Right.
They didn't vote to do anything because, as Mitch McConnell said, the Democrats will take care of it. It's like Mitch knew that he didn't have that there weren't the votes there unless the Republicans.
Well, I think we're going to talk a lot about following the money. Everything's follow the money these days. But before we get into all that, I want to start the new year on a positive note, which is just kind of my jam. I have to work on my mindset. I have to take care of myself so that I can be effective. And we need to remember that we have the numbers and we have the power. And for now, we still elect these people. And so we need to show up at the voting locations and put our ballots in. So I just want to mention, I saw a really nice short video by Robert Reich. He's been doing a really great job, like Heather Cox Richardson. He's been doing great. Things to help us save our democracy. And it's a very short video. He had 5 things. He listed 5 things that we can do. And of course there are more, but not all of us want to go to rallies, but the first one is attend protests. It's not enough, but it is something. It is something. And, yes, the media doesn't cover it as well as they should, but it has a lot of importance to show that we have solidarity and that people are resisting the regime. So attend protests.
I point out that I saw recently that some people in Europe are wondering why we don't just have a general strike.
Right.
Because that's how they dealt with their dictatorships in the past.
I'm wondering if that's coming. I mean,
there has been no indication of it yet. I haven't heard anyone say that. I hear people say, okay, let's do a protest on the weekend. That's not, and the weekend protests really don't affect businesses that much. But if you had a general strike, which, I was in France I've been in France and in Europe, and I was at one day they had a general strike in France when I was studying there. Couldn't get mail for as long as I was there. When I was in Europe, they just called a strike one day when we were flying from one town to another. So we got stuck in another place and had to get a bus there. But the mentality of striking in Europe is so much different than it is here.
Well, a lot of the countries are more homogeneous, Jesse, and they also have social safety nets and less of a racial and income wealth gap than we do. And honestly, we've cratered the middle class, and so to expect low-income people, single moms, to strike when they've got 3 jobs and they're supporting their kids and trying to put food on the table. I have a lot of compassion for people here. They can't lose their jobs. They can't lose their health care. Talk about health care, it's tied to your workplace. If you strike and you get fired, you don't have health care. So
Well, yeah,
I think it's a different culture.
There's also the issue where you work at places where you don't get health care in this country.
Right.
And, it's, you said, like, people are working 3 jobs. No one should have to work 3 jobs
Right.
to have a decent quality of living.
Right.
But that's where we are now because the minimum wage hasn't changed, which we've talked about in the past. It's the same as, it's at least 2 decades since it's been increased. And you're right, people don't have the ability to take a day off work because they're stuck in the trap that they've been sort of put in by the powers that be. And, I hate saying that, but there is this underlying thing to realize that very rich people don't work the way very poor people work. And they say they say, well, we're on call all the time, but no, they aren't doing the labor that the typical laborer does for minimum wage and working 3 jobs.
Right.
And you have to work 3 jobs in order to survive, even in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine living in somewhere like California
Right.
or New York? And you can't. It's the cost of living is so much different. I was looking at a chart today about rent, like how much does it cost to rent a 1-bedroom apartment? And in New York, it's like $4,000. But if you go to another country, it's like $250 a month. So, there's that. Yes, there's this huge wealth gap even among nations, but within this country, there's an even bigger wealth gap. And I've posted on this a number of times about what billionaires are doing here. And I think in my last count, the top 8 billionaires in this country, maybe the top 10, have $2 trillion among them. And Elon Musk has 750 billion of those dollars. So, there's no excuse for anyone there's no excuse for centibillionaires. There's no excuse for billionaires who are in the tens of billions of dollars. And if they gave up, as I've said many times, if Elon Musk gave up 99% of his wealth, he'd still have $7 billion.
Right.
So, how can you not live on that?
But anyway, I do think that that these differences should be mentioned, and that I do think that we could have privileged white people show up and strike. I mean, privileged white people have a lot of disposable income, and so if they were to strike or if they were to boycott more companies like Target or Home Depot or Amazon, that again, follow the money. If they make an impact, that's great.
Yeah, but honestly, privileged white people, don't they benefit from the current situation?
Well, yeah, and vote for these folks.
Yeah.
All right, number 2, that was attend protests. Number 2, make calls to your elected officials. If you don't have the 5 Calls app, I really recommend that you download it. It is free. Today, I plug in my location, and basically they say, what's important to you? And they have really salient strategies, topics, and then they make it super easy with language and content for you to call up your legislator. They have the phone number, they have their name, and then they have content for you to choose from. Today, the homepage for me was stop the military escalation with Venezuela, demand the release of the Epstein case files, stop the dismantling of the National Center for Atmospheric Research, protect funding and access to gender-affirming care, and extend the Affordable Care Act premium tax credit. So these are really salient, and they just make it so easy for you. So take a look at that 5 Calls app. It's amazing, and if we could all be using that on a regular basis, it really will make a difference. And I posted something about this on my Facebook page today, and I have a friend who sings with me in choir, who lives in Indiana, and she was like, she thanked me for the prompt. She did make her call to her legislators in Indiana, and she said, but I don't really think it's going to make a difference. And I reminded her that Indiana's state legislators bucked the Trump regime and did not redistrict the way that Trump and at all wanted them to. And so, the cracks are happening, and the red states are cracking, and we need to do it in the red states just as badly as we need to do it in the blue states, don't you think?
Well, the red states are cracking because the red states are being harder hit than they realized.
Exactly.
It's sad to say, but a lot of people in red states thought that this was about doing bad things to brown people. I can't say it any other way. They thought that if you're going to, they thought,
to those
okay, we're going
people,
to,
others.
yeah, we're going to like get rid of all the immigrants who do all the work, and how are we going to deal with that? Well, they thought, well, if all the immigrants are gone, then you're going to put black people back in the cornfields. Yeah, the black jobs, as Trump said, which he's got a black job.
I loved how Obama said he
but,
had a black job.
But it's just this is what the people in red states have voted for. They're getting hit harder, and instead of addressing their legislators, who, by the way, don't show up for town hall meetings, because I can't think of. Maybe Massey has had one, but Massey is on the outs with Trump, so I can see him doing a town hall. But other representatives in this state who, other than Massey and probably our guy here, McGarvey,
whom you love.
Anyway.
Number 3 is attend town halls if they exist. And, along with that is, joining local resistance groups. I have mentioned that I'm part of a community defense network. And I show up and I put my yellow baseball cap and my orange vest on. And for 2 hours, I just stand around an organization that does amazing work for our Latinx community and make sure that ICE doesn't come and take people away, and we get trained. It's nonviolent. We know exactly what to do to help folks. So to build solidarity and power, join those local resistance groups. Number 4, boycott corporations and organizations that support Trump. By the way, Jesse, I was really impressed with Hilton in Minnesota.
The hotel company?
Yeah, the hotel company. They are not allowing ICE on their premises. If you pay attention, friends, you notice a lot of brown people working in cleaning up your rooms, cleaning up your meals, cleaning up after the white folk. And at hotels, there are a lot of brown folks that are hired to make that hum. And Hilton took a stand. So we can support Hilton, and we can support Costco, and we can support Penzeys Spices and Lowe's rather than Home Depot. It is not difficult to find organizations and corporations that support our democracy. And again, show us the money. It's all about the money. So spend your money wisely. So that's number 4.
And when you're talking about like the places to boycott, you would include Amazon in that.
Amazon.
And the idea that the Amazon convenience is something that everybody now offers. So if you went to the website of a place that you wanted to buy something from, you could order it from like the specific retailer as opposed to going through Amazon, which takes a cut and which sends that cut to Donald Trump.
Right. And then 5 is protect the most vulnerable in your community. I mentioned what I'm doing with this community defense network. We have a lot of people to feed. I mentioned I'm on the board of Feed Louisville. We are getting thousands of meals out every month to unhoused people with our feeding partners. We have a lot of restaurants and grocery stores that are donating food to us. It is an amazing operation. And so hunger, the basics, hunger and shelter and emergency utility assistance. It's really cold right now, and people need some emergency utility assistance because all those energy costs are going up somewhat because of these humongous data centers. But there are concrete ways to do good. And Never forget that. And please don't get overwhelmed or so cynical to believe that you don't have a voice and that you don't matter. You do.
I agree with that because, votes do matter. Votes still matter until they take them away from us.
Right.
And I know that the administration wants to take away the vote from people because they sent around this memorandum from the Justice Department saying that if asking states to voluntarily take people off voting lists that they think aren't legal voters, which, that's, to me, that's just another step toward rigging the elections. And, to think that this administration would not rig elections is just an absurdity because that's what they'll do that definitely.
And Jesse, I wanted to mention one more thing that I was really heartened to see. So we've been talking about individuals and what individuals can do, right? Well, I saw this coalition of business leaders dedicated to protecting and renewing American democracy, and it's called the Leadership Now Project. The Leadership Now Project. And they have really good solutions for their leaders to take in terms of who to support, who not to support, where to spend your money, how to talk to your employees to drive positive solutions to influence policy, respond to risks, and protect our democracy. I was really excited to see this. I'd love to see your company listed as one of many, many companies in this Leadership Now project.
Well, it'd be interesting to see it'd be interesting to know what companies are involved. It would be nice if we knew there were Fortune 500 companies because they have more clout than
They sure do.
Any other businesses do. But I'm sure there's resistance on all levels in all corporations. It just depends on who are the people in the suites, in the C-suite, and again, how much money are they making?
Yeah.
Because you have to look at the numbers, and anyone who's going to benefit from whatever the administration does is not going to allow their employees to register their voices. You see that during union drives, like people will try to form a union, the company will go out of its way to say that if you bring a union in, then we will lose jobs, which that's a lie. Mm-hmm. That's a lie. If you have the merchandise that people want to buy, they're going to buy it from you, and
right.
It doesn't matter if you're unionized or not unionized. But it does matter on the employee level because the union does guarantee certain protections that you don't get from just a regular working atmosphere. So,
and I can assure you that a lot of the brown people that are being targeted are not in unions. They're being exploited and underpaid, and they have more dangerous jobs than a lot of us would want.
Well, and the people who are not in unions are in companies that don't want unions
right.
there. And they can exploit them because it's easy to do. There's no protection. So we have to just be aware of what people are going through, why they're going through it, and what things they can do to protect themselves.
Yeah.
Given that, we're at the point where you can't trust the federal government to do the right thing because it's not in their individual financial interest to do the right thing. And we have to be realistic about the fact that certain things are happening today not because they are national security issues, but because there are people who have a lot of money and they want more money, and they know.
And when you break government and then want to privatize anything, watch who they're privatizing with. Watch who the people are that are now taking over the jails and all the things that government used to do.
Right. What I think I read recently that some billionaire is now getting the assets or some of the American side of TikTok. Which is, I think it's, right. I might be Larry Ellison, who's the second or third richest man in the country. And so he also owns CBS, and they bought Barry Weiss in to undermine reporting in general.
Right.
So all these outlets that we have to send messages through are now being taken over by billionaires.
Right. That's why people power this grassroots stuff. Really, we've got to do it.
Yeah, but we have to figure out where to do it. That's the issue, because, if you go on what used to be Twitter, that's just a cesspool. It's a cesspool of racism and hatred, and it reflects the owner of Twitter,
right,
who's a cesspool as a human.
Substack is good. Blue Sky, people are going to.
Right. That's as long as they're not like affiliated with Facebook or Twitter.
Right.
It's probably the best ways to go, because Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg is sold his soul to the Trump administration as well.
Right.
The person who once said that what was their motto was "Do no harm." Either that was Facebook or it was Google, and now those guys are in the top 5 richest people in the world.
Right. Doing harm.
Doing excessive harm.
Excessive harm.
Not only to just the democratic system, but they're doing harm to kids. They're harming children. They're splitting up people because whatever the algorithm says is what people are going to read. So if you are on the MAGA spectrum, and if you use any of these services, all of your information is going to be oriented toward that mindset. I know that when I go through, it's just a completely different thing. It's all the liberal side of things, where, if I see something that's MAGA, that supports MAGA, I'm either not going to click on it, or I'm going to click and say, don't show me this anymore. So I know that there are people who don't realize that you can click on things and say, don't show me this anymore. But for the most part, I would imagine most people just get the feeds that they get, and they're used to whatever is coming through. So if something says that, let's use an absurd example, that there's a certain person in a certain government who's a major drug dealer, and we're going to get rid of him, you'll get different perspectives on that if you go on any of these
well, and my son and I were watching the Steelers-Ravens game, and so this is, a big sports channel, millions of people watching this football game, and every time, or many times that a commercial would come up, it would be for a Crohn's disease medication. And I was talking to my son, I'm like, Gabe, they are targeting me through these commercials, these very expensive ads. I can assure you that the millions of people across the country are not seeing a Crohn's medication from a pharmaceutical company. And that really, it just is so disturbing.
Are you sure about that?
I am so sure.
It's an NFL game, so that would be a national broadcast.
I know, but I think the local media company, whoever's airing, has local spots.
Yeah, right.
And so I think that the algorithm is even affecting what we see locally.
Well, it's also interesting because that means a lot of people have Crohn's disease, which you wouldn't think of offhand.
Well, I don't think they do. What I'm saying is, I don't think a lot of people have Crohn's disease, and I would bet you that if we went around to a lot of people's households, they weren't seeing this Rinvoq commercial for people with Crohn's disease. That's what I'm saying. I think it's targeted at me.
Okay. All right. That's a possibility. I would think that more likely in an internet interface than in a national broadcast interface. But again, I agree with you. If there are local ads, then there will be local companies that are targeting the people in this area.
Right.
But they're targeting you. Okay.
They are. Anyway, what's next?
Let's see. Well, we were talking about. Since we were talking about this idea of messaging to get people to fall for something, let's talk about Venezuela, because people will say that there's no connection of Venezuela to Kentucky, but there is, because the training for the Venezuelan invasion and extraction of the president was done down in Fort Campbell. So this is it is a Kentucky issue. They've decided that this is the place where you're going to stage these kidnappings of foreign leaders, and there, the argument. Well, let's say the argument that the administration is using is that this guy was head of a narco-terrorism, country, and that we had to get rid of him because all the money is, we have to get rid of him because drugs are killing people
Right.
in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So who did he pardon?
if that's the case,
Mm-hmm.
okay, why did he pardon the president of Honduras who was convicted of importing cocaine into the U.S.?
How much cocaine?
I don't know, but he got according to what I've been reading, he's got $1 million bribe from one of the big drug kingpins. It's like 400 tons of cocaine
Exactly.
through Honduras
Right.
and into the U.S. This is someone Trump pardoned.
Yes.
And he also pardoned the founder of the Silk Road dark web marketplace, which, it made it possible for $214 million in illegal drug sales.
Yeah.
And that person was serving a life sentence. He got pardoned.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Chicago gang leader who was convicted of drugs and violence. He had a life sentence. He was pardoned by Trump. His sentence was commuted. There was a Baltimore drug dealer who ran a multi-million-dollar cocaine ring. He was pardoned by Trump this past May.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, there's the CEO of Rock Nation who was convicted in 1994 for conspiracy to distribute narcotics, was pardoned by Trump, but that was in his first term. So,
You got $1 million, I'll pardon you.
well, yeah, what was it I saw last time we were talking? There was a person who was pardoned because his mother gave Trump $1 million donation.
Right.
So, again, this is.
So let's talk about why they really went into Venezuela.
Oh, for the oil.
Of course.
Venezuela is I think it's an OPEC member, and it's one of the biggest oil producers in the world, and it's money.
It's total
like
money.
let's seize this because Trump and his cronies will make more money. You know that somehow this is going to get into his pocket.
Of course.
The cash is going to be in his pocket or in the pockets of his children or in the pocket of his son-in-law. Jared Kushner has been doing all kinds of stuff around the world, so you wonder, are his fingers involved in this one as well?
Yeah, and Trump has said you were gonna take over the running of Venezuela.
They already said
and
that,
we're
yeah.
gonna invest billions of dollars in this failing oil infrastructure. I mean, he's just outright saying it.
Yeah, but it comes to the point of what's Congress doing about it, which
Yeah.
brings us back to the whole process,
Right.
where he was supposed to get congressional approval to pull anything like this, and haven't heard a word. I think I read that Mitch McConnell was saying yes, it's the right thing to do, and Andy Barr also said it's the right thing to do. Morgan McGarvey, our congressman, said that he didn't get congressional approval. Who's the other Republican congressman? Massey, yeah.
Rand
Massey's,
Paul was against it.
yeah, so it's in Kentucky, it's the usual suspects in this case, where Rand Paul and Massey are going to do things that are going to piss Trump off. So he's going to threaten to have them primaried. Then we've got the last one, which is McGarvey, who has really no voice because the Democrats have no power. But none of the other Republican congressmen in this country, in this state, have said anything against it, which is troublesome because, it also goes back to this idea of drug abuse and there is a drug problem in Kentucky. There's a huge drug problem. And it was mostly brought about by American corporations,
Right.
the Sacklers.
Right. Opioid
And,
epidemic.
they're not going to jail for anything. In fact, their billions of dollars or millions of dollars is still in their pockets.
Right.
I mean, they were sued and they did have to pay out a fine. But again, the fine doesn't take away the millions and millions of dollars they've made. So what's the point of fining them if it's not going to affect them? It's like nice symbolically, but in terms of reality, they're not going to miss lunch or they're not going to lose a meal because of this.
I wanted to just reiterate that, this the Delta Force that went in and kidnapped Maduro and his wife. It's the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, which is called SOAR, which is based in Fort Campbell. They're also known as the Night Stalkers.
Yeah.
They also, famously took part in the raid on Osama bin Laden's compound in 2011 and have been involved in countless other missions.
Right, and that makes sense because that's what their job is,
Right.
to do this. But, when we went in for Osama bin Laden, we've been looking for him forever.
Right.
And
he was responsible for the attacks on the World Trade Center and those airplanes.
And it was something that George Bush, who was president, did not accomplish.
Right.
It wasn't.
Right.
Let's reiterate this. It was a Democrat who caught Osama bin Laden.
Right.
It wasn't a Republican who, does the bluster and
toppled Saddam Hussein with a lie about having weapons of mass destruction.
which weren't there.
Right.
But here's the thing. I think we were better conditioned to accept those invasions because they did affect us directly. Like the World Trade Center,
Yeah.
as I've said
Yeah.
before, I worked across the street from the World Trade Center, so
I was there too.
I was almost there when it happened, but I was late getting to my office, so I saw the planes hit the building on TV, and I knew I wasn't going to be working there that day because I knew where the emergency facility was going to be. But again, the World Trade Center and Osama bin Laden, Americans could get behind that. Yes, we want him dead.
Yeah.
We want him out.
Yeah.
With Saddam Hussein and Iraq, yes, he was a bad person. The reason for invading them was because George Bush Jr. said that he tried to kill his father. That's kind of very Star Wars and Luke Skywalker kind of
Right.
stuff. But again, we were conditioned. There was some lead up so that the American people would think, okay, this is something we have to go in.
A Kentucky woman is
Oh, I'm
behind
hearing
bars
something.
charged with.
Okay,
Sorry.
some Kentucky woman got charged with something.
Yeah, we're
But
going
anyway,
to talk about that.
A
A woman had an abortion and was put in jail here.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
But with the invasion of Iraq, we were conditioned better to go into Iraq. This was something that just came out of nowhere. This whole idea of, I didn't know we were mad at Venezuela.
Well, we did bomb. We did attack those ships and kill all the people.
Yeah, we
on
did.
them.
But under this guise of them bringing drugs into the United States, when in reality, those ships weren't coming to the United States; they were going to Europe. Which, then let the Europeans bomb them. But the drugs that are coming into the United States are coming through Mexico and from China. So, are we going to invade Mexico next? That raises that question. I'm sure Latin America is looking at what's happening.
Well,
and
he's talking about Cuba next.
they're always talking about Cuba.
Yeah.
But the other side of this is we have to start looking at Greenland because
Right.
Trump says he wants Greenland.
Right.
And that's not a Latin American country. That's Denmark that you have to deal with. So if we seize Greenland, we're destroying the NATO
Right.
alliance. We're actually declaring war on NATO and what's going to happen there. So, there's a lot of bad connotations about what we've just done in Venezuela, and the fact that
And by the way, we don't have a really good history of this in Latin America.
no, right, yeah, the Banana Republic. That's that was something we created because Dole was the banana company, I think, or Chiquita, one of those
Yeah.
banana companies. Didn't like the way the governments were running, so they had the United States just go in and take over. We're in this very odd situation where military intervention is not only going to be done on this hemisphere, but if things get out of hand, or if the administration considers things getting out of hand in this country, they're going to have military in the streets, which they already do. Los Angeles,
Right.
or Portland, Chicago. They talked about
DC.
New York, D.C. When did we become? When were Americans willing to accept that the military would take over? The how do I say this delicately? The assholes who keep talking about owning their guns and protecting America from this illegal intrusion by the government. I don't hear a word from them now.
Yeah.
It's just everything they've said for the past 50 years is bullshit. And we're now in this phase where Americans are now going to be at the end of guns because the American president wants a dictatorship.
Right.
Anyway.
I wanted to just mention, we've been talking a lot about the big bullshit bill, and of course those subsidies for the Affordable Care Act have expired, and people are really suffering. From KFF Health News on January 2nd, they basically said that the big bullshit bill may lead to, and we've mentioned it, but they quantify it, may lead to 338 rural hospitals closing nationwide, including 35 in Kentucky. 35 rural hospitals may close in Kentucky. That's more than 10% of the number nationwide.
Right.
So with that and the Affordable Care Act and all that stuff, we are really in big trouble here.
Well, not only that, we have a person who's Secretary of Health who is taking away vaccines and treatments, and
kids are dying of
measles are back. That was a cured disease. I'm pretty sure there was a year where there were no new cases of measles reported,
right, because
people were getting vaccinated. But you have this this psychopath in the health department. The guy. Everything you can say that's bad about a person, you can say about the current Secretary of Health, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's a heroin addict. He's does crazy things. His family, the Kennedy family, thinks he's out of control.
And he's supremely unqualified to head HHS.
But he appealed to Trump. Mm-hmm. That's the thing.
Right.
He was willing to bow to the knee to this dictator, and that's how
he's lining his pockets now.
Right, I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's probably doing something like selling supplements, or
he's
involved in some supplement company, because that's what these right-wing fanatics do. They buy supplements. They talk about having to be in their bunkers for when the revolution happens or whatever. So this is the craziness we're dealing with now, and it's something that, let's say, in the fantasy world, that the Democrat won the last election, we wouldn't be talking about any of this.
Right.
We wouldn't be talking about invasions of Venezuela. We wouldn't be talking about taking over Greenland.
People losing their health insurance.
Right. People.
The economy would still be strong. You wouldn't have had the tariffs.
And we have these invaders in our country who are seizing people off the streets. This would not happen under a Democratic president, which, again, is the fault of the people who voted for this administration.
Right.
And we can't let them off when they say, "Oh, I was voting for the economy." No, you weren't. No, you weren't. You were voting to hurt people, and when it started hurting you, then you decided that, oh, this is bad. But it's not Trump's fault. It's the fault of the Democrats.
Somehow.
I don't know. I
want to stay on the healthcare platform a little bit longer. Reproductive health. Abortion is part of reproductive health, a woman's right to choose. And Jesse, why don't you tell us a little bit about what has just happened in Kentucky?
Well, there's a woman in Kentucky who was arrested recently for, she got a medical abortion. She bought pills online to, let's see, I'm trying to find the story, but she She bought she bought an abortion pill. She was pregnant. She miscarried as a result of the abortion pill, and now she's in jail because she told someone at a health facility
Yeah.
that she had a medically induced abortion.
And the
Now-
medical facility told the police, and
Which-
now she's incarcerated
Yeah,
in Bayville.
which I'm not going to blame the medical facility because they have to do this. If someone reports a crime,
Yeah.
you have to
crime.
report it to the police or you become an accomplice to the crime.
Right.
So I don't know why she told anyone there, but anyway, she was arrested. She's in jail now for having an abortion. Now, we see that the story says that they found the body in a grave and the fetus was developed.
Right.
But it doesn't say if the fetus was viable, which is something different.
Right.
Like, would the fetus have existed outside of the womb if it had been born at that time? And if it's viable, yes. If it's not viable, no. I'm guessing that it probably was not viable, but it was
But
developed.
we haven't had good reporting on it yet.
Right, because I don't know why
It's
we
the
haven't.
law. It's the law.
Yeah, right. That's the response you get. But what happens when the law is unjust?
Right. Yeah, we're incarcerating women for taking control of their health when their choices are removed.
Right, and we've seen stories about Republican women who've gone to hospitals when they are having difficulty in their pregnancy and finding out that the hospital won't help them because even though the fetus will kill them, the law says that they can't abort. So women are like bleeding out in parking lots. That's happened. And there's nothing that the medical facilities in this state or in any other state that has banned abortion can do. You have to leave the state in order to get an abortion. And some states are tracking people, just like if a woman people see is pregnant and she goes out of town, she comes back and she's not pregnant, the people in her vicinity are supposed to report her to the police.
The enforcers.
That's like
1930s Germany.
yeah, it's have your neighbors rat out you, and that's what this government wants. It wants a nation of rats.
So I want to mention a health article that I saw that is actually really good news. UK, the University of Kentucky, is the first in the nation to treat small cell lung cancer patients with a new immunotherapy, and this is in the Kentucky Lantern on January 5th. And this could be a game changer. Dr. Howe at the Markey Cancer Center has basically done, he has treated the first patient in the country with a novel drug currently in the early stages of human trials. And it's really important that this work is really, really important to us. Lung cancer is the leading cause of death in Kentucky, and Kentucky has the second highest rate of smoking in the nation, behind only West Virginia. And also, so the rate of new lung cancer cases is much higher than the national average. And more people, 17% of adult Kentuckians smoke, which is significantly higher than the national rate of 11%. So I was really excited to see that the university has money to conduct research that may save people's lives.
Right.
Woo-hoo.
And as long as they stay in the good graces of the federal government, they will keep that money. And, Kentucky is like a leader in new cases of lung cancer. And it's because of smoking. There's, tobacco smoke, as you said. This is like the second highest rate of smoking in the country. Secondhand smoke, we keep forgetting that non-smokers are affected by the smoke that's around them. And of course, there's workplace exposure, and that's working in the coal mines. Lots of lung diseases and cancer related to that. So,
And we live in the Ohio River Valley, and as you know, we had a state senator several years ago. His name was Dan Syme, and he eliminated the vehicle emissions testing statewide. So now you can drive around with a faulty muffler, belch black smoke out there, and you don't even have to get tested anymore.
your car doesn't have to be tested.
Your car doesn't need
You,
to get tested
as an individual,
anymore.
yes, would probably have to be tested at some point when you're coughing all the time and you
Yeah.
can't figure out why.
Right.
And there, I see if you look at your weather app on your phone, you'll see the days when you're not supposed to
Right.
breathe. I mean,
It's a lot, especially in the summertime
yeah,
here.
here, and when you're flying into Louisville, you can see like the smoke billowing out of one of the plants on the
In
so-
Rubber Town.
Yeah, on the other part
They're
of
supposed
the
to have
city.
scrubbers. We won some legislation about putting scrubbers in the stacks, and all of that is collapsing as well.
And just when you were talking about the whole health issue, it's I've had a lot of health problems recently, and it's just so difficult to find a doctor here just to begin with. So yes, it's great that we're getting research dollars to do this, but there has to be a better medical system in general just to get things done, because I'm sure you've faced this before, but if you want to get an appointment with a doctor these days, your wait is going to can be months in Louisville. I've been in DC and I've been in California, and when I needed a doctor, I would just go to a certain app, look up the local doctors, see what times they're available, and just plug in a thing, make an appointment, and that'd be within the week I'm looking in those cities. But here, if you miss an appointment, it'll be months before you can reschedule an appointment.
Right.
And to get an appointment in the first place, that may take months as well. And I ran into that situation this past year because I had an appointment for my kidneys, to check my kidneys in October, and I had to be out of town that week, so I rescheduled, and I think, okay, I'll probably do it the next day or the day after. Turns out I couldn't get another appointment until December. So that just seems so wrong.
It does.
But that's the way it is here. And the fact that you say that as a result of the big, beautiful bullshit bill, 30% or 10% of the closures of hospitals is going to happen in Kentucky, that means that it's going to be even harder to get appointments, because there are other facilities where people are going to need services and they have to go somewhere. So
and these rural hospitals already, you had to have adequate transportation to get to
Right.
that rural
Yeah.
hospital. It's going to be much farther away
Yeah.
to get care, and you may die on the way.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, Jesse, you wanted to talk about taking people off the voter rolls, 11 states.
Oh yeah, the Justice Department sent a memo to to all the states, saying that they want them to look at their voting rolls and to report any voters that look like they're illegitimate, which, that's
What's illegitimate?
right.
What is that?
That's the question.
Right.
What is that?
And who has the resources to determine what is legitimate?
Right,
and what
because if
right?
if you're on the voter rolls, you can, you've gotten this through the driver's, like you get your driver's license, they ask you to register to vote or whatever. I've been registered to vote in Kentucky for years, since I've been here, and I'm beginning to think the fact that I've lived in other places, would they say that because I lived, my address was once reported in San Francisco, I have another address that's reported in Washington, D.C., are they going to look at my voting roll or my voting record here and say, oh, he's been in other states. So
And you
we have
happen to be African American.
Oh, well, that
I'm sure
makes it
that
easier.
won't play anything into
but
it.
it's that idea that is my vote safe because they're making up something that is that they say is going for voter fraud, but is in reality a way to get rid of people from the polls who are going to vote against the current regime.
And you can bet that if we're purged, right, there aren't going to be staff 24/7 to take our calls so that we can fight it and get back on the voter roll. There's no way.
It's not only that, the fact that someone is going to go to vote, and when they get there, they're going to find out that they've been taken off the rolls.
Right.
And I'm sure that they're not going to send messages to people when they take them off the rolls.
That, it happened here with the citizenship ceremony. We had a bunch of people ready to become citizens, and they showed up where they were supposed to show up, and none of them were allowed to become citizens that day.
But they were deported, or
they weren't deported, but they weren't admitted as citizens. But essentially, what we're talking about, and what recourse did they have? So yes, people. First of all, it's so hard to get people to show up at the polls anyway. Let's be honest.
Right.
So you do this voter outreach and get out the vote efforts and all this stuff, and you get people there only to find that they can't even vote. So we've really got work to do leading up to these midterm elections. This is a huge thing that we have, an opportunity that we have, hopefully in early November of this year.
But the question, though, will be, in Kentucky in particular, will the legislature try to get rid of the Democratic seat in Louisville? Because Republicans have been talking about redistricting here, even though Indiana has shown that there are Republicans who will stand up for voter rights.
Right.
And they didn't do the redistricting issue, even though that's what the governor
Well, and the
wanted.
other problem is, as we found out, the Capitol is undergoing a $300 million. The state capitol in Kentucky is undergoing a $300 million renovation, and we have a $186 million deficit. And what that means, practically speaking, is legislation is going to be discussed and voted on without the general public having any access. Only certified reporters and the legislators and their staff. No lobbyists, no general public. Right. That's really scary.
Right, and they can, they have the choice of saying what is a legitimate reporter as well.
Right.
So,
right.
If they see someone who's been reporting
Fox News gets in.
Right. Fox
Louisville
gets
Public
in.
Media doesn't get
right.
in.
Yeah. But, and also
PBS.
The fact that they're spending $300 million to renovate the Capitol when people are starving and when people
losing their health
insurance.
You saw Massachusetts and Connecticut. Some of these states are taking monies to prevent those loss of subsidies. Like, there are so many things you could do with $300 million in the Commonwealth of Kentucky,
right? And
to improve people's lives.
And you kind of wonder what the improvements they're going to make to the Capitol are going to be as a result of this. But it's the question is this the time to spend $300 million on this kind of thing when you have people who are losing their health care, losing jobs because the result of the Trump tariffs? We've lost jobs in major industries here, particularly in the bourbon industry. And I'm sure, I don't know, but I would imagine that the legislators have gotten a raise recently or something. Anyway, the money is going to what seems to be the wrong places. Now they can say that, well, I wonder, is the Capitol an unsafe building? Because that's the only criterion I would think would be necessary to decide whether or not to spend money on renovations. If this is just to get better video boards in the legislative chambers, then they've survived this long. Without them, they can wait another year or two. But it's just, it just looks wrong. It looks wrong. And when you have a poor state, and we've said this many times, that this is one of the poorest states in the country, but you can spend $300 million to renovate the Capitol. That just seems to be a waste of money.
I think we should wrap up, even though I'm so used to wrapping up on a positive note. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
Well, I could talk about Louisville women's basketball, because I'm really happy about that. I have season tickets, and I've talked about this before, but They're now ranked number 10 in the country.
Wow.
So,
I want to go with you.
let's plan that.
Okay.
But I've been to 2 games over the holiday. They won both handily. They've beaten some important teams. They're
Your
number
seats
one.
are fire too.
Yeah, the great seats. But the last game I was at, I think there were at least 9 to 10,000 people there.
Wow.
It's a Virginia Tech game last Sunday, and it was a decent time. Place was packed. I went by myself because I couldn't find someone to go with.
You didn't ask.
Okay.
Next time.
Next time.
All right.
But I'm looking forward to this season. I'm hoping they go to the Final Four, because if they go to the Final Four, I'm going to fly to Phoenix to watch that.
You
Because
can take me to that too.
that would be great. But that's my ray of hope right now. It's just
I love that.
seeing good basketball, women's sports, which doesn't get enough credit. Louisville has some of the best women's sports in the country. We should appreciate that, and it is.
And know the history of Title IX and how
Yeah.
important that has been
Right.
for
And
women.
it's just, this is something good that's happening that sort of diverts attention from all the bad that's happening. So that's my positive for this broadcast.
All right, everybody. Happy New Year. Boy, take care of yourselves, and we'll talk with you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, let's hope this year is better than last year. So see you all around soon.
Bye.
Bye. Our closing music is by John Chamberlain.